Welcome back to the Pro Ticker Podcast, your Thursday morning edition covering major financial magazine headlines. We're diving deep into a story from the Wall Street Journal today.
Oh, yeah.
And let me tell you, it reads like a financial thriller, really does.
Oh, wow.
It revolves around this guy, Jay Newman,
Okay.
a former top executive at Elliott Management.
Elliott Management, right? Yeah.
You might recognize that name.
Yeah.
Elliott Management is a hedge fund known for, well, shall we say, its assertive tactics.
Yeah.
Especially when they're dealing with governments and companies that are in financial distress.
Right. They're what's called an activist hedge fund.
Yeah.
They buy a large stake in a company or a country's debt in this case, and then they push for changes that they believe will boost the value of their investment.
Yeah,
It can be a controversial approach for sure,
for sure.
but they've had some major successes,
Right.
bringing in huge profits for their investors.
And Newman was a key figure in one of Elliott's biggest wins, a battle with Argentina over its defaulted debt.
Oh, I remember that.
That went on for over a decade.
Wow.
We're talking lawsuits, intense lobbying efforts,
Really?
even the seizure of an Argentine naval ship. It's crazy.
Wow, the Argentine debt saga was a landmark case.
Yeah.
It really showed the world how powerful hedge funds like Elliott can be, taking on entire countries and winning.
Yeah.
It also sparked a lot of debate about the ethics of sovereign debt restructuring.
Right, how countries renegotiate their debts when they just can't pay them back.
Exactly.
Now, here's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
Newman has written a thriller novel called Under Money, and it seems to draw very heavily from his experiences at Elliott.
Oh, really?
The book features a hedge fund that's strikingly similar to Elliott,
Okay.
engaging in shady dealings with spies and mercenaries. And Newman himself has said publicly
Yeah.
there's not that much fiction in Under Money.
So did he blur the lines between fact and fiction?
Yeah, and prosecutors are looking into whether Elliott, through an Israeli private investigator named Amit Forlit,
Okay.
was involved in hacking Argentine officials during that debt battle.
Really?
If they find a connection, the fallout for Elliott could be massive,
Wow.
both legally and in terms of their reputation.
Yeah.
Hold on, hacking,
Yeah.
like straight out of a spy movie.
Exactly. Forlit.
Yep.
He's a former Israeli intelligence agent.
Wow.
He's known for obtaining sensitive information, often through hacking,
Oh, wow.
to give his clients an edge.
Jeez.
He's actually facing extradition to the U.S. on hacking charges right now.
So we've got a former hedge fund hotshot, a controversial novel, and an alleged hacking scheme.
Yeah.
This is getting more and more intriguing by the minute.
And it gets even more complicated.
Oh, no.
Prosecutors are investigating a $20 million payment
Okay.
made to a company controlled by Forlit.
Right.
The payment was routed through a consulting firm that worked for Elliott.
So are they saying Elliott was paying for these hacking operations?
Well, the Wall Street Journal has reported that the firm in question is DCI Group,
Okay.
a company known for its political connections and aggressive lobbying tactics. It's important to note that neither Newman nor Elliott has been charged with any wrongdoing at this point,
Okay.
but the investigation is definitely trying to figure out how much they knew about Forlit's alleged hacking.
Okay, so we've got this complex web of connections.
Yes.
And a lot of questions about who knew what and when.
For sure.
What happened with Newman after he left Elliott?
Well, Newman left Elliott in 2016.
Okay.
Shortly after winning the Argentina case, he walked away with a bonus of over $70 million
Wow.
and said he wanted to keep pursuing similar sovereign debt opportunities.
Okay.
But it seems like Elliott might have moved on from that kind of strategy.
So what's he been up to since then?
He's been focusing on writing.
Okay.
Under Money has gotten some positive reviews,
Oh, wow.
even from well-known thriller authors.
Yep.
But it's also reportedly caused some tension with his former colleagues at Elliott.
I bet.
They're probably not thrilled about having their alleged tactics exposed in a best-selling novel.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It sounds like Newman's next act as both an author and potentially as a financier will be fascinating to watch.
For sure.
Did his time at Elliott influence his writing?
Yeah.
And will this investigation affect his future endeavors? Those are some questions we'll have to keep an eye on.
Absolutely. There's a lot more to unpack here.
Yeah.
So let's take a quick break,
Oh.
and then we'll come back and dive into the potential fallout for Elliott Management
All right.
and the wider implications for the hedge fund industry.
Sounds good. All right. So we've laid out this intricate story with Newman, Elliott Management, and these alleged hacking operations.
Right.
What could this actually mean for Elliott Management
Yeah.
if prosecutors manage to connect them to Forlit's activities?
Well, if prosecutors can prove that connection, The
Yeah.
consequences could be significant.
Uh,
We're talking about potential violations of U.S. hacking laws,
Mhm.
which come with serious penalties, hefty fines,
Yeah.
and even jail time for those involved.
So not just bad press,
Right.
but actual legal trouble.
Exactly. And, for a firm like Elliott Management,
Yeah.
the reputational damage might actually be even worse than the legal repercussions.
Really?
They've cultivated this image of being aggressive but operating within the law.
Mm-hmm.
Being labeled a firm that engages in hacking could really tarnish their reputation
Right.
and make it much harder to attract investors in the future.
Especially nowadays, investors are really paying attention to things like ethics
Yeah.
and social responsibility, right?
You're absolutely right. Investors, particularly large institutional investors like pension funds,
Mm-hmm.
they're increasingly focused on what's called ESG factors,
Yeah.
environmental, social, and governance.
Right.
A scandal involving hacking would raise huge red flags for those investors,
Yeah.
and they might just pull their money out of Elliott.
It's not just about looking bad then.
Right.
It could hit them right in the wallet.
Precisely. And it goes beyond just investor perception.
Okay.
Imagine if other countries start to believe that Elliott is willing to use hacking as a tactic.
Yeah.
That could seriously hurt their ability to do business internationally.
Sovereign debt plays,
Exactly.
like the one they pulled off with Argentina,
Right.
would become much harder to execute.
Exactly. Think about it.
Yeah.
Would you want to negotiate with a hedge fund that you suspected might resort to hacking to get what they want?
No.
It creates a climate of distrust,
Mm-hmm.
and it could make it nearly impossible for Elliott to pursue similar strategies in the future.
Now, to be fair,
Yeah.
Elliott Management has strongly denied any knowledge of or involvement in any hacking activities.
Right.
They're saying nobody at the firm authorized, commissioned, or paid for anything like that.
That's true, and it's crucial to remember that everyone is presumed innocent until proven guilty.
Right.
However, the sheer intensity of this investigation
Yeah.
and the potential evidence being gathered...
Suggests that prosecutors believe there's a strong case here.
Okay.
We'll have to wait and see how it all plays out. But there's no doubt that the stakes are incredibly high
Yeah.
and the consequences could be far-reaching.
This case seems like it could have implications for the entire hedge fund industry,
Mm-hmm.
not just Elliott Management. What are your thoughts on that?
You've hit on a crucial point. Hedge funds are often shrouded in secrecy.
Yeah.
They manage enormous sums of money and use complex, sometimes aggressive strategies to get returns for their investors.
Yeah.
This lack of transparency can create an environment where ethical lines can get blurred.
So this case could lead to more scrutiny of hedge funds in general.
Absolutely. Regulators might start looking at strengthening existing laws or creating new ones to prevent the misuse of technology and information.
Mm-hmm.
There could also be pressure on hedge funds to adopt stricter internal controls and compliance measures.
It also makes you think about the power and influence that hedge funds wield in the global economy. Right, hedge funds play a critical role in financial markets, allocating capital and influencing how companies are governed. But their size, resources, and aggressive tactics sometimes raise concerns about whether they have too much power
Right.
and whether their actions could harm other stakeholders.
If this case unfolds the way prosecutors seem to believe it will, it could really amplify those concerns and lead to calls for greater oversight and limits on what hedge funds can do.
It's a potent reminder that with great financial power comes great responsibility, and that the pursuit of profit should never come at the expense of ethical behavior and respect for the law.
Now, let's circle back to Jay Newman for a moment.
Okay.
It's interesting to consider how his experience at Elliott might have shaped his writing.
His novel, Under Money,
Yeah.
provides a fascinating glimpse into the world of high finance and its darker side. The book's themes of espionage, corruption, and ruthless ambition really echo the allegations being investigated in this case.
It's impossible to know for sure how much of Newman's book is based on real events.
Right.
But the parallels are certainly striking.
Fiction often draws inspiration from reality.
Yeah.
And Newman's time at Elliott undoubtedly gave him a wealth of material to work with. Whether his book is an accurate reflection of what actually happened or a work of pure imagination, it certainly sparked conversations about the ethical considerations of his former profession.
It also raises a question about a different kind of insider trading.
Oh.
Not the illegal stock trading kind,
Okay.
but the idea that Newman might have used his inside knowledge of Elliott's operations
Yeah.
and potentially controversial tactics as inspiration for his novel.
That's an intriguing thought.
Yeah.
It's not clear whether there are any legal ramifications for using that kind of knowledge in a fictional work.
Right.
But it definitely raises ethical questions. Did Newman exploit his time at Elliott for personal gain?
Yeah.
Did he betray any confidences or violate any agreements? These are questions that could be debated for quite some time.
And it'll be interesting to see how this investigation affects Newman's future,
Right.
both as an author and potentially as a financier.
Yeah.
Will his past at Elliott come back to haunt him? Only time will tell.
The attention this case is getting could boost sales of his book.
Yeah.
But it could also make it harder for him to find partners or investors for future projects.
Right.
It's a complex situation with a lot of potential outcomes.
This whole story is like a tangled web connecting high finance, international espionage, and the world of crime fiction.
Yeah.
It's a real-life thriller that has captivated the financial world and beyond. It will be fascinating to see how it all unfolds.
It's a reminder that even in the seemingly secretive world of high finance, the truth often has a way of coming out, and actions have consequences.
Yeah.
It's a story that will likely be studied and debated for years to come.
Serving as a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked ambition and the importance of ethical conduct in the pursuit of wealth.
This has been a fascinating deep dive. And I think it's important for our listeners to understand why this story matters, even if they're not directly involved in the world of hedge funds.
Absolutely. This story is about much more than just a single hedge fund or a former executive. It touches on broader themes of financial power, ethical boundaries, and the pursuit of profit in a globalized world.
Yeah.
It highlights the often opaque and complex world of high finance, where vast sums of money are at stake, and the rules of the game aren't always clear-cut.
For anyone investing in hedge funds or considering doing so, this story serves as a reminder to be diligent. Do your research, understand the fund's strategies, and be aware of the potential risks involved, both financial and reputational.
It's also a cautionary tale about the importance of ethical conduct.
Yeah. Even in the face of intense pressure to generate profits, cutting corners or engaging in questionable tactics might yield short-term gains, but the long-term consequences can be devastating.
This story also shines a light on the increasing role of technology in finance and the potential for its misuse. Cybersecurity is paramount in today's interconnected world. And as we've seen in this case, even sophisticated institutions like hedge funds can be vulnerable to hacking.
For anyone involved in financial markets or handling sensitive information, this case underscores the need for robust cybersecurity measures and a vigilant approach to data protection.
Beyond the world of finance, this story also touches on broader societal issues, such as the influence of wealth and power, the ethical implications of espionage, and the blurred lines between fiction and reality in the digital age.
It's a story that invites us to consider the values we prioritize as a society and the limits we place on the pursuit of individual gain.
What sacrifices are we willing to make in the name of profit? Where do we draw the line when it comes to privacy and security in the digital realm?
These are complex questions with no easy answers. But they're questions we must confront as technology continues to reshape our world. And the lines between different spheres of influence become increasingly blurred.
This case, still unfolding, will likely continue to generate headlines and spark debate for some time to come. It's a story that has captured our attention, not just for its intrigue, but for the deeper issues it raises about the world we inhabit.
And with that, we'll wrap up our deep dive into this captivating financial saga. We'll see you all tomorrow morning with new headlines from major financials magazines.
See you then.
Thanks for joining us. This case really highlights how intertwined finance, politics, and even espionage can be.
It does, doesn't it?
Sometimes it feels like we're living in a spy novel.
Yeah, this story raises questions that go way beyond the immediate players. You mentioned that this case matters even for people who aren't directly involved in the world of hedge funds. What makes it relevant to, well, our listeners?
Well, think about it this way.
Okay.
This story is a peek behind the curtain of high finance. It shows that things aren't always as straightforward as they seem. Vast sums of money are at stake. And the rules of the game can be blurry.
So for those of our listeners who are investing in hedge funds or thinking about it, what are the key takeaways here?
I'd say the biggest takeaway is to be diligent, really.
Okay.
Do your homework. understand the fund's strategies,
Right.
and be aware of the potential risks.
Yeah.
And those risks aren't just financial.
Okay.
They can also be reputational.
Right.
If a fund is associated with unethical behavior,
Yeah.
it could really damage its reputation and make it harder to attract investors in the future.
It's also a reminder that ethical conduct matters.
It does.
Even when there's, like, a lot of pressure to generate profits.
Exactly. Cutting corners or using questionable tactics, well, it might lead to short-term gains,
Right.
but the long-term consequences can be devastating.
Yeah.
This case, if the allegations are true, is a prime example of that.
Mm-hmm.
Any short-term gains Elliott might have made from these alleged hacking operations could be completely wiped out.
Wow.
By the legal and reputational fallout they're facing now.
This story also brings up the role of technology in finance.
It does.
And how it can be misused.
Yeah.
Cybersecurity seems more important than ever.
Absolutely.
Especially in a world where everything is so interconnected.
Even sophisticated institutions like hedge funds can be vulnerable to hacking.
Right.
This case underscores the need for strong cybersecurity measures and a vigilant approach to protecting data.
It's a lesson for anyone, really.
It is.
Involved in financial markets or handling sensitive information.
For sure.
Beyond finance, this case touches on broader societal issues, too. Things like the influence of wealth and power, the ethical implications of espionage, and how the lines between fiction and reality can blur in the digital age.
It really is a story that prompts us to think about our values as a society. In the limits we place on the pursuit of individual gain.
What are we willing to sacrifice in the name of profit?
Exactly.
Where do we draw the line when it comes to privacy and security in the digital world?
It's tough.
Those are tough questions with no easy answers, but they're questions we need to wrestle with.
We do.
As technology keeps changing our world and the lines between different spheres of influence become increasingly blurred.
This case is far from over.
Yeah.
And it will likely continue to generate headlines and debate for some time to come.
It's a story that has captured our attention.
It has.
Not just for its intrigue, but for the deeper questions it raises about the world we live in.
It's a good one.
Well, I think it's safe to say this deep dive has been anything but boring.
Not at all.
It's a real-life financial thriller with twists and turns that keep unfolding.
Yeah.
We'll continue to follow this story closely and bring you updates and analysis as they develop.
We will.
And with that, we'll wrap up today's episode.
Sounds good.
We'll see you all tomorrow morning with more headlines from the major financial magazines.
See you then.
Thanks for joining us.